Today, we are wading into just a huge political and constitutional conflict. It's striking at the very heart of American democracy.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking
Yeah.
about members of Congress, the former president, and the fundamental loyalty of the U.S. military.
And this isn't just some disagreement over policy, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This is about where those lines of legality completely break down when extreme political tension just hits a flashpoint.
We've got a stack of intense sources for this deep dive. Everything from, military justice doctrine, the UCMJ, to transcripts of this explosive video.
And a really critical analysis of political violence that gives it all context.
Our mission today is to unpack one specific incident that just exposed these massive fault lines, a video released by members of Congress who are all military veterans.
And the concepts it invoked were, immediately explosive. We're talking sedition, unlawful orders, the breakdown of trust in our institutions. It's a dense topic.
It is, but a vital one. And here's the headline that really sets the tone. A video simply reminding service members to follow lawful orders provoked the former president to call their actions seditious behavior punishable by death.
It's hard to imagine a higher stakes confrontation than that.
Okay, so let's unpack that spark. The video dropped on November 18th, 2025. Tell us about the group behind this.
It was a very deliberate message, and it was delivered by 6 Democratic lawmakers. All of them have a background as military or intelligence veterans.
So people who have been there.
Exactly. We're talking about names like Senators Elissa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, Representative Chrissy Houlihan. They weren't speaking as politicians, really. They were speaking as former officers to current service members.
And the core message, what was it?
It was this really forceful reminder that a service member's oath is to the Constitution, period. Not to any one president, not to a political party.
And there was one line repeated over and over that just lit the fuse.
It did. They made the legal position abundantly clear. They kept saying, our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders. You must refuse illegal orders.
And then they broadened it out.
They did. They claimed the threats to the Constitution are now coming from right here at home. And they closed with this promise, we have your back.
Now, the video didn't call out a specific illegal order, did it? It felt broader.
It was broader. According to the lawmakers, there was this buildup of the president, playing loose with the law. There was reported discomfort among some service members, things like U.S. military activity off the coast of Venezuela.
So they felt they had to say something.
I think so. The goal seems to have been this kind of preemptive institutional defense, reminding troops of the legal framework before a high-pressure situation might come up.
Then 2 days later, the reaction from the former president on Truth Social, it wasn't just critical.
It was explosive.
Yeah.
He called it seditious behavior at the highest level. He called them traitors to our country.
And he didn't stop there.
No. He immediately demanded they be arrested and put on trial. And then he took it even further.
That's when he posted the direct threat.
Correct. He posted seditious behavior punishable by death. And then he reposted a user who wrote, hang them, George Washington Wood.
Just an incredible thing for a political leader to say about elected officials.
Unbelievable. And when the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, had to address it, she tried to spin it. She said he wasn't actually calling for executions. But, she stressed, the lawmakers were encouraging service members to defy lawful orders, and that would disrupt the chain of command.
Which is a critical piece of spin, isn't it?
It's the whole game. Because, as we just said, the lawmakers explicitly, repeatedly referred to unlawful orders. They were just stating settled military law.
So the White House was trying to reframe a discussion about legality into one about insubordination.
And that fundamentally distorts the whole conversation. By framing any mention of refusing orders as sedition, they're demanding total unquestioning obedience. It chills any kind of constitutional discussion in the ranks.
And that rhetoric had immediate real-world consequences.
Immediate. And terrifying. The lawmakers filed formal threat complaints with the Capitol Police. Senator Slotkin, specifically, was put under 2047 protection because of the threats she was getting.
So it went from a legal debate to a physical threat.
Instantly. Which brings us right to the bedrock legal question here. Were the lawmakers right? And did the president have any standing at all to call their actions seditious?
Let's start with military duty. The UCMJ.
The Uniform Code of Military Justice, right? The whole framework is designed to protect both discipline and the rule of law.
And what does it say about obeying orders?
Well, it says you can only be punished for failing to obey a lawful order. That's in Articles 90 and 92.
Now here's the complication, right? We all assume an order from a superior must be obeyed immediately.
And it must be. That's military discipline. An order is presumed to be lawful. But, this is the key, the rule has a massive exception. That presumption of lawfulness. It does not apply to a patently illegal order, such as one that directs the commission of a crime.
So the lawmakers were 100% correct.
On the law, yes.
Okay, let's flip to the president's accusation then. Sedition. Does that charge hold up?
Not according to any legal expert who looked at it. I mean, it was universally dismissed as doubtful, would never hold up in court. The facts just don't fit the law.
There are two kinds of sedition, right? Seditious libel and...
Seditious conspiracy. Let's take the speech part first, the libel claim.
Why does it fail?
Well, the courts, especially since the landmark 1969 case, Brandenburg v. Ohio, have set an incredibly high bar for prosecuting political speech. You have to show the speech would result in imminent, likely, and intended unlawful conduct.
And the lawmakers were doing the exact opposite.
Precisely. They were telling service members to uphold their legal duties. They were arguing for the law, not against it. It's protected speech.
Okay, what about the conspiracy claim? He called them conspirators.
That requires an agreement by two or more people to use force to overthrow the government. Force is the key word there.
And there's no evidence of that.
Nothing in the video, nothing in their actions. There's no agreement to use force against U.S. authority.
And before we move on, let's nail that fact check. The president claimed this was punishable by death.
Unequivocally false. The statutory penalty for seditious behavior is up to 20 years in prison. Not death. It was extreme political hyperbole and a complete legal misstatement.
So if you're a soldier in the field, you're walking this perilous tightrope. Disobey an order you think is illegal, you could face a court-martial.
And the burden of proof is on you to convince a military judge the order was illegal. It's a huge risk.
But the alternative is worse.
Much worse. The historical necessity for this duty is clear when you look at what happens when it fails. Look at Lieutenant Calley in the My Lai massacre.
A horrifying example.
Exactly. The law is crystal clear. Obedience to a clearly or manifestly unlawful order is no defense to a crime that arises from that obedience. Calley was convicted for ordering the murder of unarmed civilians. That history confirms this duty to disobey isn't some theory. It's a necessary protection against state-sanctioned atrocities.
But discipline can't work if every soldier questions every command. So that bar for refusals must be incredibly high. What defines patently illegal?
It means the illegality has to be manifest, obvious on its face, the kind of order that leaves you no need to reason why.
So, in order to commit a crime...
Right. In order to commit murder or torture, these things are, thankfully, very rare.
Can you give us a clear-cut example?
Ordering the use of waterboarding. That is explicitly illegal under the Army Field Manual and federal law like the McCain-Feinstein Amendment. If an order tells you to commit a crime, it has to be refused.
Okay, that makes sense. But here's the real tension, I think. What about controversial orders? The ones that involve complex legal interpretation?
This is the gray area. And this is where a service member's individual power to check the executive, it basically dissolves.
So things like the legality of certain drone strikes or even the decision to go to war in the first place.
Right. Those are not considered manifestly illegal.
Why not?
Because if legality requires deep legal analysis, if experts and lawyers are debating it, then the order has to be presumed lawful. You can't expect a soldier to have a law degree. The system is designed to stop atrocities, not to litigate complex constitutional questions on the battlefield.
And this brings us right to the issue that probably prompted the video in the first place, the domestic deployment of the military.
It's an area just full of legal ambiguity. It's governed by the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which generally says the federal military can't act as domestic law enforcement.
But there's a huge exception.
Huge one. The Insurrection Act of 1807. That's the law that lets the president deploy federal forces to suppress an insurrection or domestic violence, lifting that Posse Comitatus ban.
And this is where the controversy usually lives, right? Whether the Insurrection Act has been lawfully invoked.
Exactly. Look at what we saw under the previous administration. Federalizing National Guard troops in Los Angeles in June 2025, talking about intervening in Portland and Chicago.
And those actions were challenged in court.
Immediately. They prompted lawsuits alleging Posse Comitatus violations. In that Los Angeles case, it was chaotic. A federal district judge initially ruled the federalization was illegal.
Okay, so a judge said it was illegal.
But then the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals immediately stayed that order, blocking the lower court's ruling while the appeals process played out.
So at that exact moment, two different federal courts disagreed on the legality of the troops on the street. What is a soldier supposed to do?
They have to obey the order. This disagreement is the perfect example. If federal judges can't even agree on the legality, a junior service member certainly can't. It proves that these controversial domestic deployments fall into that gray zone that requires obedience.
This whole incident, the video, the death threat, all this complexity, it's happening against a much bigger backdrop of democratic strain.
Yes, and we need to connect this directly to the data. We have the Violence and Democracy Impact Tracker Report, the VDIT report, from July 2023.
A survey of over 100 experts.
Right, and the president's response isn't an outlier. It's a perfect illustration of the exact mechanisms of democratic erosion these experts are warning us about.
So what was the overall assessment? How worried are they?
They're concerned, but not panicking. The most common view, about 49%, was that political violence is atypical of a well-functioning democracy, but not currently indicative of imminent democratic breakdown.
So a high fever, but not yet systemic failure.
You could put it that way, but they identified clear flashpoints. The most exposed pillar of democracy, they said, is elections and election administration.
How bad is it there?
56% of the experts rated the impact on elections as level 3 or higher, meaning significant erosion of democratic quality and risk of future breakdown.
And the report defines the threat of violence very broadly. It's not just about physical harm.
This is a crucial point. They consider physical harm, direct threats, and maybe most importantly, intimidation and implicit threats.
And intimidation was seen as more relevant.
Statistically, yes, more relevant than actual physical harm and how it affects democratic stability.
So when we see Senator Slotkin put under 247 protection because of threats, that fits perfectly into this erosion model.
It's the textbook example. It creates a chilling effect on public servants. We see election workers resigning. It targets political rivals.
Now let's tie this all back to the president's public call for death. What were the experts' top 5 threats to democracy?
The top 5 were violence against the electoral process, right-wing or white nationalist violence, escalating polarization, violence against marginalized communities, and number 5 is the direct link. Elites encouraging, condoning, or inciting violence.
A public call for the execution of political rivals over a statement of military law. That is the textbook definition of the elite incitement these experts are talking about.
It illustrates the mechanism perfectly. The lawmakers were legally correct. But the extreme political reaction, the death threat, it successfully shifts the political cost of dissent from the executive branch onto the individual lawmakers and the soldiers they were trying to support. It makes oversight dangerous.
So to synthesize all this, the lawmakers were legally sound, reinforcing a necessary check against atrocity. But the former president's response, this illegal, violent threat, was not only wrong on the law of sedition, but it perfectly embodied the kind of elite incitement that experts say is driving democratic decline.
And while the UCMJ protects service members from patently illegal orders, the vast gray area of legally contested but highly consequential orders remains subject to political control and the chain of command.
We saw this, didn't we? When the head of Southern Command resigned, reportedly over legality concerns, and Congress was basically boxed out from even questioning him.
That's the core institutional failure. When dissenting staff are silenced or forced out, and Congress can't do its oversight job because of partisan gridlock, the chain of command just becomes opaque.
So the only real check left is the political cost a president pays for firing his own people.
Which is a much, much weaker safeguard than a functioning Congress.
And that leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to consider. If the system is designed so that junior service members can only refuse orders that are manifestly illegal, obvious crimes, then where does the primary responsibility lie for checking executive power and stopping legally questionable military actions before they become orders that must be smartly saluted? Is the political cost of firing dissenting senior staff really the only effective check we have left against a determined executive pushing the legal envelope?